We're asking questions tonight about new exclusive polling and what it reveals about the race for the White House. The new polling from Emerson College shows former President Trump leading in the key swing states of Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Joining me to break down all of these new numbers is Wright State Professor of Political Science, Dr. Lee Hanna. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight for 2 News at 5. This new polling shows former President Trump leading in 6 swing states he lost back in 2020. We know how important swing states are in a presidential election. It is still early, but what do you make of these numbers?
So we're looking at these states that were the closest in 2020. There's no reason to expect that the election won't really come down to these again, just based on what we've seen in Senate contests in 2022 and what the polling shows. And so, it does show former President Trump in a strong position. 6 months out, polls still aren't real predictive, so there's still a lot of time, obviously, for the conditions on the ground to change, but the Trump campaign certainly should be happy with these numbers at the moment.
Ohio's not listed in this polling. What can we take away from polls in these other swing states? Do they give us any insight into what voters here could decide?
Well, I think we're most similar to the other swing states along the Great Lakes, so Pennsylvania and Michigan in particular, even Wisconsin. And so you could kind of read into the demographics there being so similar in Ohio to get some sense of how things will go. I think the one thing that makes this state really interesting is that Sherrod Brown is one of the most vulnerable incumbents running for re-election, the Democratic senator out of Ohio. And so there will be a lot of attention and money on that race that could cause either Trump or Biden to campaign here, maybe less, thinking that they're going to win the state or lose it, and more thinking about making sure that, their preferred Senate candidate is in a strong position.
Yeah, you mentioned being 6 months out. Several states, the polls are within the margin of error. Does that reduce any pressure that this poll might put on the Biden campaign?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that at this point, I think there are some Democrats that are frustrated with Biden, and it's pretty easy to say you're going to vote for someone else right now. Once the campaign spends $1 billion reminding you of Trump as Democrats, I think many of them will come home. But certainly he does have some issues. I think most importantly with young voters, that, if he can't get some young voters back into the fold, that's going to make it difficult in a lot of places, especially in the Southeast.
About 30 seconds left. We know the Trump campaign is balancing a presidential run and also a criminal trial. All 7 states polled say his trial is appropriate. How could a possible conviction impact his support in those states?
Yeah, I think it'll be a matter of what parts of the conviction, I guess, stick out in the voter's mind. And so it's kind of hard to tell how both campaigns will use that if it were to happen, in their interest. But certainly there are some voters that I think would lose him. I knew this was bound to happen at some point. I knew there were some voters that would lose him, that he could lose if he were convicted of these crimes.
Is that Henry? Is that Henry?
Brooke, you've got this to look forward to.
I am looking forward to it. We love a Henry appearance here on 2 News at 5.
Thank you so much, Brooke.
Dr. Lee Hanna, Professor of Political Science at Wright State. Thank you for being with us.
Bye, Henry.
All right, coming up,